to speak about slow luxury, quiet luxury. Very, very lucky to have some of the Southern Europe's best experts at it. Joana Astolfi from Portugal, interior designer, and two representatives, Enrique and Virginia, of Vestige Collection in the Balearic Islands and Spain. I think quiet luxury and slow luxury has been on everyone's lips for many years now, but understanding what it really means is what we're going to be looking at. What does it take? How much time does it take? How much expertise? How much craft? How much knowledge? And I think how much respect. I think it's a lot about respect. So here with Vestige Collection, Virginia and Enrique, you know, we mentioned when we spoke that slow luxury was at the core of Vestige Collection's DNA, and that being responsible for the development of a Mediterranean lifestyle was also at the core. So I'd love for you to present yourself and a little bit Vestige Collection for those who don't know it.
So my name's Virginia Webb, and I work as an independent marketing consultant. I set myself up a couple of years ago after 20 years in communications and then 8 years in marketing director roles in 5-star hotels. And Vestige was my first client and now is my only client because it's a brand I absolutely love. And what's unique about Vestige is that there was never a grand commercial plan. The brand grew out of a family's love for architecture, heritage, and Spain. So way back, probably about 15 years ago, they started work on a palace in northern Spain called Palacio de Figueras, originally to be their family home. And they did a meticulous restoration job for 11 years. And in that process, you know, really discovered the love of restoration, of the history of art. It was their homeland as well. That was where they were from. But they also realized that the Palacio was just too big. So we've created this gorgeous building. Now what happens? And out of that came the idea of a hospitality brand. So it was a very organic beginning. There was no big sort of, we're going to set up a brand and make our fortunes. It was much more about the love of the buildings and the process. And from Asturias, they went to Menorca. And they went to Menorca because, as a family, that was where they'd always been on family holidays. They had a rich, you know, decades-long connection since the children were little, that Menorca was the place for them to relax, to find peace, to find space. And so when it came to the next properties in this gorgeous collection, it was an obvious choice. And that's where Enrique comes in, because Enrique is our expert architect who takes charge of all the projects in Menorca.
So, hello, I'm presenting myself. I'm Enrique Motilla. I'm head architect in Vestige Collection, and I work in the Balearic Island like an architect and the chef from all these projects. Yeah, what it's amazing from all this evolution that we had in the Vestige Collection is that we search for something special and something authentic, because these Maderas families, they are always searching for something authentic. And we found that Menorca and the Balearic Island, there were like deep connection from the building with the nature. There were like a very big heritage, and that was something really, really special for us. And we started all these projects without, I can say, without a program, because the only thing that was interesting was the place, the object itself, and we make this approach always in 3 phases. We go there, we make the observation, listening, we observe spaces, we observe the surroundings, light, and then we listen to the locals. We go to the bars, we stay there maybe 3-4 days, just hearing the stories of these places, because they are all iconic places there. And then we go to the second phase. This is the studying. So we go with collaborators, with historians, with artists, and we don't stop learning. So we are always searching references and And then when we have this analyze phase done, then we start with a proposal. And the proposal is always not so easy, because we have to change the use of the building, and yeah. I think we're going to get into the details, and thank you for this great introduction. But before we dive into it, I think much more than a trend, quiet luxury is deeply, deeply transforming the way we travel, the way we experience travel, the way we interact, the way we preserve craft and heritage. And you've hinted at already. And I love the fact that a marketing expert says that at first there was no marketing plan. And I think it's a good way to look at slow luxury and the real frontiers, the new frontiers of what luxury really means. Because some people look at luxury and they don't even know what it means anymore. And I think it's all about meaningful ways. And when we spoke, Joana, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, you were saying these wonderful words that I wanted to put on the slides, that you've always been interested in slow luxury, but that for you it was the sophistication of simplicity, the amount of craftsmanship and details involved, but that at the end, the biggest luxury was time, expertise, and legacy. And I think these are really key words to start talking about, and maybe introducing yourself in your studio in Lisbon.
Yes, hello everyone. So, well, I'm an architect, a designer, and an artist. So I work spaces, objects, window displays, set design, basic, very transversal studio that we've set up, Studio Astolfi. We have a team of 20 people more or less based in Lisbon. We have 2 departments, an interior design department and an arts department, working with artisans, with craftsmen in all these art pieces that are then inserted into our architecture projects. In architecture, interiors, we work with hotels, we work houses, we work restaurants, we work bars, office spaces, so it's very transversal also. But lately, over the past 6 years, I would say 5-6 years, our movement has been more and more going towards rural hotels and exploring this, the beauty, the nature, the silence, and the tradition that I've always been very interested in, the legacy and the heritage of Portugal as a country for crafts, for craftsmen that pass their know-how from generation to generation. And I've always traveled the country researching in terms of ceramics, pottery, basketry, tiles, all stonework, woodwork, wicker. There's so much richness in all of that. And all of that takes time. All of that is a slow process. It's a process that is done with passion, from in to out, from inside out. It's very umbilical.
Yeah, and we're seeing through the different slides of Joana's work how different each project is, how it is contextual, how it plays with the light, it plays with the surfaces. Yeah. And you were saying when we were talking also that over the past decade things have changed, and I think we're also here to speak about how Spain and Portugal are redefining luxury and slow luxury, with this connection to the land and some wildness or some wild spaces or wild open landscapes that still exist and that are a great fit for both of your work. So just a few...
Do you want me to talk about the images?
Yeah, a few here.
So, yeah, I will.
And then we'll get into Balearic Islands, but you know, a way to slow down.
Yeah, wait, this piece, for example, the ice shells, was a click that I had about 20 years ago of the simple gesture of listening to the ocean inside the shells, and created a piece from that is sold since then worldwide. This is a shot from Casa Nossa, a rural hotel that we did in the Alentejo in the south. So here you have the jacuzzi at the end, the lake at the far back, the fire pit with integrated seating. So a space to stop and to enjoy, to breathe. This is a sales office that doesn't look like a sales office, also in Comporta in the south. So here we bring in contemporary furniture that we design, vintage furniture, different kinds of light, different kinds of objects that are, some are vintage, some are designed by us. So there's always this rich visual warmth mix. This is a bakery shop that we did also in the center of Lisbon, that could be anywhere in the world, could be in the south of Italy. On the image on the right-hand side, you see a little bread house. It's all done, the tiles are bread. And this is bread done with a special kind of flour that does not rot. So you have to go through it to go to the next zone. Here is Casa Amarela, another rural tile, the last one that just opened in the Alentejo also. And here you see by the materiality, the tiles, the different stereotomies of terracotta, the color palette. All of this brings in this feel of rural, local materials, craftsmanship, and the time to stop and enjoy and experience, which is so important.
Yeah, and now on to Vestige, who have a quiet, also a very quiet approach to all of these surfaces and curated objects. For you, Slow Luxury, you mentioned, Virginia, when we spoke, that it had the power to transform, re-energize, and create new stories. And think delving into the past and the buildings you have.
I think what's been beautiful over the last few years is the fact that these were buildings that were abandoned and ruined, and they had no life. And what Vestige has wanted to do is not make museum pieces out of them, but give them a new life and give them a new role and a new function and make them open to people to experience in lots of different ways. So whether you come to the bar, stay, or have a meal, you can experience these extraordinary buildings because there isn't quite the sort of heritage program in Spain that there perhaps is in different countries, and these buildings are not looked after. So it needs a private family with a lot of passion and a lot of energy and a lot of patience to really bring these buildings to life together with local collaborators. So you can see the difference in Palacio de Figueras in Asturias. It really was a ruin, and now it is this elegant, calming presence above the port that you can hire as an exclusive villa for yourself. And the spaces are not, we're not recreating the past. We're bringing contemporary pieces, we're mixing them with antiques. Their family have built up an extraordinary collection of pieces over the years that they have warehouse full of different pieces. And then the interior design team worked very hard at selecting which pieces sit best in which setting. Ideally, they're from the local area, but sometimes they have to source things from France or Italy to find the right era. For example, I think in Palacio de Figueras, they were looking for beams for literally years to find the right 500-year-old beams that would sit in the building properly. So, there's this gorgeous mix of old and contemporary.
Enrique, do you want to comment maybe on these pictures where the first ones where we see where it all started?
Yeah, so it was really interesting because Palacio de Figueras is in an abandoned fishing village in Spain, but it was I think the most important point of this village in the history. And all the people there, they all have rememberings, histories, anecdotes of this place. And we made like a very deep research about the first use of this building, and it was a customs house. So the people stops here to pay taxes to enter to the river. And then we started there with that history, and we found into the vegetation these ramps, because you have to come from the river to the customs house to make the payment. And then we started from there to the main building. And we found that in the 18th century, a big family there, they made a first renew. They changed the use to like a manor house for the family. And then we were like searching a purpose, or do we have to continue with this use, so manor house, or do we have to search something else? And then it appears the possibility to make these hospitality programs. And we found it really interesting because it's a different form of luxury, because luxury that it's not ostentatious or is experienced. So you can be there, you can sleep there for 1, 2 nights, 3 nights, whatever you want. You can touch these 200 years wood beams. So I think it's like another level to experience all this work.
We always, a lot of hospitality experts say, it feels like a home away from home. And sometimes I feel it's a bit marketed, I think it's about putting the right appliance where you need it to feel a bit of a home. Here
I think it's a lot nicer than my home.
Yeah.
I think that this, the Vestige's properties, they are palaces, they are manor houses, they have so much character and history, so you get to taste it. You get to live like a noble, almost.
They're lived-in homes, and that was my point. It's not a marketing strategy of having a kettle and trying to feel like you can go down to the kitchen. It really feels lived in. One other thing we mentioned a lot when we prepared this conversation was the importance of the landscape and the rural horizons. I think when we look back 20 years, rural destinations were not something you wanted to go to by any means. And today they're setting the ground for new luxury escapes. And at the same way, they're raising the bar for sophistication, because you have to have the same feeling of sophistication as in urban areas with less means. So we're going to dive into this about connecting to nature, to silence, to peace, to harmony, surrounded by rural landscapes. And we'll start with you.
Yes.
Joana?
Well, here these projects are all based in Portugal. And honestly, I mean, Portugal until about, I would say, 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody really knew much about Portugal. Portugal was not on the map. Portugal was discovered 10 years ago, for real. And then suddenly the whole world is in Portugal. Everybody wants to do a hotel, make their house in Portugal, etc. So, and not just Lisbon. Lisbon is the hub, but then all of the rural areas in Portugal are so different. Like here we have Douro, the Douro Valley in the north. It's so rich, as you can see in the backdrop. This is the hotel we did with 40 rooms, big two restaurants, a beautiful spa. Every room, there's 12 typologies of bedrooms, the restaurants, the bars. It's really, I always say, the home feeling, the visual warmth, the place with all kinds of experiences that you can dive into, from sleeping, relaxing, drinking, eating, writing, doing whatever, all the pleasures, all the small pleasures of life that are the ultimate luxury, for real. Here we have São Lourenço do Barrocal, very well known in Portugal. It's one of the top leading luxury hotels of the world today in the south. Also a farmscape retreat, was owned by a family for over 200 years. And then one of the family members decided he took 14 years to transform this into a beautiful, incredible hotel that you walk in through the gate and you can stay there for a month and not even understand you haven't left it. So in here we had an intervention in my challenge in Barrocal was to create the cabinet of curiosities in the restaurant that tells the story, the whole narrative of what was Barrocal before. So I was diving into all the rooms that were still all under mud to find the objects that help to tell the story of the hunting, of all the landscaping, the agriculture, everything that took place in this
and you're talking about
area.
a story, but there's also history, and we hinted at history with you in the old customs house, but for a couple of decades, Portugal was not an easy place to live in. There was a dictatorship.
Absolutely.
And the story of Barrocal behind is that it was the family was expelled from it and then reclaimed their own property after years of dictatorship. And so also reconnecting and mending the relationship with the past, I think, are very important in both of your practices. It's not just about making new or bringing something old alive, it's reconnecting with the past and building from it.
Absolutely. I didn't tell that part of the story, but yes, the fact that the family went back and got their land and then reinvented themselves, which is incredible. This project is another small boutique hotel in the middle of nowhere in Beja, in the Alentejo. It's called the Yellow House. Has 10 rooms, a beautiful spa downstairs. The rooms are all, using the original as much as possible. The doors, the original doors. The blankets are done with local factories that create woolen blankets and rugs. And we choose the patterns, we work with them. So there's always a process of the arts and the crafts coming in with the interiors and the architecture. It's a full story, as I always say. All the dots need to connect. From the logo to the napkins on the table, everything needs to be coherent.
And then we have the Balearic Islands. I think you've got one of the best spots in Europe today.
I think the history of the Balearic Islands is really interesting, and it has suffered from mass tourism in certain areas, and the Spanish National Tourist Office currently is on a drive to focus on sustainable tourism, to focus on meaningful tourism. And so we seem to be working along exactly the same lines, that a stay at a Vestige property is about uncovering the local area, feeling that you're getting a real insight into where you are. This is Miramar in Palma, and it was the King's Equerry's property, and it's extraordinary private residence now. So, it's interesting to see the difference between the Vestige properties, that there is a sort of red thread in the design that you can tell it's a Vestige property, but we do subtly adapt the interiors. So this is a slightly more noble, more grand property, whereas some of our other private estates have a more agricultural history. So Vell is a Palladian 18th century manor house in the countryside in Menorca. This is Hermitage.
I thought we might have a picture of
don't worry.
of Vell. So going through different times.
This is Hermitage. Hermitage is the first of two sister properties. Hermitage opened in June last year, and the second sister, Bini Dufa, is opening the end of April this year. And they share 800 hectares. So the unique thing about Vestige Collection is that it doesn't just own properties, it owns land, it owns estates. There are 25 projects in development that are going to be divided between small boutique hotels and private estates that you can rent in their entirety. And you have this extraordinary natural playground as well as the beautiful historic building. And within this particular project, you have very contrasting sides of Menorca, because you've got a noble house on the top of the hill, and you have a more, actually an older Arabic in origin house in the valley. So you get to understand the history of Menorca by staying in an estate like this, where you can experience two sides of it. This is Vell before.
Yeah, only to give like another view. So Balearic Island, what I discovered in my experience, they used to say they are a little bit close people, but I think that's not the word. So they are very protective with all the things that are locals, and that comes from their culture, because they are in a very strategic point in the Mediterranean, and then come a lot of invasions from all the cultures and all the civilizations. Then they have all this richness from the cultures, but they are protective with the things that they have. And that I find that it's really, really amazing in Menorca, because they kept all these interesting things, and we learn a lot about the heritage, materials, all the intelligence that they have in the architecture. So that perspective was for us a surprise and something to learn for.
Wonderful. So we're seeing the diversity also of the Balearic Islands, from very rural to more noble former stables to very agricultural based, but with an incredible manor house, which we'll discover a little bit later during the presentation. And back to you in Portugal. I think you hinted at Portugal not being present on the Mediterranean scene 20 years ago, and suddenly it's there. And what do you think has been prevalent in Portugal, raising the bar so much in the recent years?
I mean, Portugal is a little jewel. As I said before, the difference is so big between north and south. It changes so much the landscape. We have the whole coast on the left, and on the bottom, it's all incredible beaches, incredible settings, very different. The climate is incredible all through the year. We feel all the seasons. That's a luxury in itself. And then we have the opportunity to always be a voyeur, a little bit of a voyeur. We're always discovering something we've never seen before. I feel like a tourist sometimes in my own country when I travel from north to south. So this allied to what we were speaking before, this incredible craftsmanship that we have, and still the hand labor, the made by hand, made with love, opposing this mass production that keeps going on in this accelerated world, this overload of information. Portugal, you really have... Why did I go back to Portugal after 12 years of living abroad? Because of the rhythm of Portugal, because that's my rhythm. That's my beat per minute, and I feel that very deep. So I think we all have to live in a place where we feel that it's our beat per minute. It's the way our heart beats. So, and we have that rhythm. We have time to stop. We have time to work. We have time for all of that. These images that are passing are from, some of them already from projects we've seen before. This one is Casa Amarela that I've mentioned before, but the previous one, Casa Nossa, is also the hotel of one of Portugal's greatest chefs, Chef Village. He decided to do a hotel with 10 rooms that he rents out as a house, and he cooks for the people there, so it's a very custom-made experience. And here we did practically everything. We designed the flooring, the lamps, everything was handmade and designed by us. Very tailor-made.
And to echo the environment, huh? I think we've seen pictures of the great outdoors, and then when we get inside, we feel like that it's an extension of what is outside. And then a joy. I think also you bring there's a joy.
Yeah.
I think
there needs to be always this playfulness that is very much part of Studio Astolfi's work. I always speak about crafts and the detailing and the material richness, but the playfulness is very important. You need to surprise people. They need to put the little smile at the corner of their mouth, you know, and say, "Oh, interesting detail." This one is an urban hotel. This is the Verse Hotel in the center of Lisbon. But even here, we bring in, you know, the roof, expose the trusses, the original trusses. We bring in local stones, local craftsmanship with wood, so materiality, local arts, artisans and arts, fine artists. So all of this is always, I mean, it's a constant. It's something, it's a line that runs through the projects that we do,
A lot of life. And then reacting or reenacting the past with Vell. I think we're back into this absolutely wondrous property.
Well, I mean, Enrique ought to talk to this because this was your project. And, you know, I've never seen a more glamorous cowshed.
No, thank you so much, Bad. Here, it was really a beautiful piece in the origin, and we came with this respect attitude from the beginning. And the most important thing when you make this approach to a historic building is trying to think about the points you want to join from the past to the future. I think that's a very important thing to do, because you can study the process or the style that the building and everything, but you have to have in your head, okay, I want to play with this, and I want these elements that play a role in the future. And here in Vell, that was really an amazing work that we did here, because in Menorca, you have always this señor house, that is like the landlord, and is the main building here. And then you have the agricultural buildings for animals or for stores. And then you have to change the scale of these buildings to bring it to the humans, because that was not think for that, no? And we didn't want to change the scale or the light or the volume. And then you have to choose very carefully the program that you want to go inside. So here we decided to go with the restaurant, because then we can keep the whole volume free like it was. In the main house, we emptied the first floor, because we found when we cleaned the lime from the cladding, from the walls, we discovered arcs, old arcs, and we decided to reopen these arcs and to bring that big living rooms again to the first floor. So. And
in the middle of the picture, you have something that's almost medieval, which is very part of the heritage of the building. The fountain, which was used by the cattle.
Yeah, this one here. We found, because that was an anecdote from the people and for the locals, and one of them told us that his family was the owner of the donkey that used to go round and round in this mill to get the water outside in this.
So
pool.
You're looking at a noble house. There's a lot of details. You can see the zigzag on one wall, which is to collect the water because it's in a very dry area. There's still the donkey, the mill in the middle. The water is there, not as a fancy pool, but to be collected by locals originally. So there are a lot of elements from the past and from the rurality and the life before that have been kept at Vell, which make it quite exceptional. So we're giving you a little tour of Vell. I think we have sound on the video in the back. No?
Y sacarle todo el valor posible a la finca, potenciarla y hacerlo un espacio especial para el cliente, ¿no? La casa es una casa del siglo XVII, de estilo neoclásico, entonces dentro de una finca rural traía un estilo, traía un empaque, traía un nivel que nos obsesionó mucho al principio de conseguir alcanzarla, ¿no? Buscamos pues como una dualidad entre ese refinamiento y, sin embargo, la tradición de la propia isla, ¿no? Quizá esta transformación la hemos dividido como en tres partes. La primera era mantener ese valor clásico que tenía la casa principal, que para nosotros es la joya, es el centro en el que orbita todo lo que está alrededor en la finca. Por otro lado estaban las edificaciones agrícolas, y ahí se nos presentaba otro reto, que era transformar esas edificaciones que habían tenido su uso agrícola, traerlos a una escala humana y convertirlos en espacios de alojamiento atractivos para el usuario, ¿no? Y en tercer lugar había un reto que quizá ha sido el más importante, que es el de cómo unir las diferentes edificaciones dispersas por la finca con un paisajismo, con un concepto de exteriores potente. En general, lo que hemos hecho aquí ha sido de jugar mucho con la tradición, nos hemos rodeado de artesanos y luego los materiales puros han sido, yo creo que, la parte esencial de este lenguaje que queremos compartir y que queremos que el cliente sienta como suyo, porque siendo materiales que quizá desde un punto de vista de un usuario sean especiales, pues porque son materiales más sufridos quizá, tienen un valor incalculable y yo creo que es lo que hace que tenga alma el proyecto completo.
I think we get a good feel of how much care, how much attention to detail there is. I didn't want to unveil the video before in the talk because I think we needed to set the ground to understand, but we're diving into the second part of the conversation, which is the power of craft, because none of this would be possible, none of your projects, without tens and tens of craftsmanship and knowledgeable workers and people who dive into the past to create the future. So creativity does take courage, Joana. And we're back to what you did with Hermès for the vitrine and petit tache.
Yes, here you see the spinning tops. That is probably my favorite object. It's a playful object full of forms. So these were ones that I designed. I worked with a local cabinet maker, wood maker, to make them in different woods, solid woods. And the back panel was also in an Hermès vitrine, and it's about 50 doors from Portugal, all cut into diamond shapes, and was in the back of a lot of vitrines from Hermès. On the right, there's this cork table that we designed for a workshop area of one of the Petit Tache pop-up shops we did in Lisbon. And so using a local material, and in the middle of the table we inserted a live bivalve garden with a little scissor for each person sitting at the table, so that they could cut their herbs and put it into their plate. So also this interaction is so important. Here's a little example of some of the 300 vitrines that we did for Hermès during 10 years. So in the first upper left hand image, we work with paper, we work with stone, with wood, with metal, so all different kinds of materialities. Here's a collection of bags that I made in a plant-based design residency where I went to the south of Portugal, worked with this lady, 70-year-old lady. Her whole life she was making pieces with palm, and we developed these 3 bags. It was beautiful to learn from her and for her to experience also working with a mad designer like me, wanting things that were impossible, but I tried to make them possible with her. And then came out this pochette, this magazine, wall magazine holder, and this overscale tote bag. This is a collection of tiles that I just launched, called Raw, made with the terracotta. So it's tiles that are made really with clay, and then with this tension between the clay and the glazed finish for the geometries that are a bit above the surface of the tile. So this is another tile collection I made with the Viúva Lamego, one of Portugal's biggest heritage tile brands. They're here at the fair. So with all this possibility of compositions, shapes, I got very inspired in Marrakech for this collection with the geometries, with the colors. A piece that I made, an art piece that is probably one of my favorite things I've done at the moment. It just came out also. This is a spinning top also, but working with Bordalo, which is one of the oldest also ceramic factories in Portugal. And they have a very playful imaginary, full of images of flora, fauna, etc. So I had to use molds from their existing serpents and figures, etc. And I spent also at this factory 2 weeks working with them to bring this 140 limited edition pieces through.
And I love this one.
Yeah,
talking about playfulness and talking, not taking yourself seriously.
This is definitely not taking it. No, I always say it's playing in a very serious way. So this is the Gin Sequoia, is a very high-end restaurant in Portugal, in Lisbon, and the deli bar was opening, and they asked me to do some art interventions to play around with the things that they were selling. Incredible charcuterie, incredible cheeses. So I brought in my crochet artists. One of them is sitting right here with me today, Rita, and we made the crochets for the cheeses to interact and dialogue with the cheese. We had a stone artisan making cheeses with different kinds of stones, with different colors, different finishes.
So you're getting the point that nothing stops Joana from creating and from having fun. And then back to Vestige about crafted interiors, because there's the same, with different DNA, but the same attention to every surface, every object, every rhythm inside the space.
I think what's different about Vestige is they actually have their own design studio. So Enrique is part of a large team. There's about 60 people that are divided between architecture, interior design, and landscaping. And that's very unusual in the hospitality industry, when often they just hire in a designer for a one-off project, and it changes. So we have this team that kind of live and breathe Vestige and have come to the brand in the same way that I did, because I thought they're doing something extraordinary. So the interior design team work with local artisans. Often the things are made on the island or in Asturias, where the family come from. And there is this mix of, like I said before, this mix of sort of old and new, but all with very natural materials, using the palette of the island or the building itself. So nothing is sort of jarring, it flows. And I have to shout out also to the landscapers, because the landscaping is extraordinary as well. There's a real focus on biodiversity and native planting. So there is this flow between the wild estate and the gardens, and it all sort of harmonizes beautifully.
There's a lot of emphasis also on antiques, and I think there's a lot of old doors, old metal pieces. Here we see ceramic jaws that seem to be out of a Titanic or historical museum. There's this desire to really bring the past into the 21st century.
Yeah, so the key here was really the collaboration, because it's not, you collaborate with a craftsman, with a local craftsman. They have to choose you also. So you can choose one, but they have to choose you also. And then you get to collaborate together. And the key here in these restorations was working really with amazing people. With the stone, Menorca and Balearic Island, they are experts with the stone. They have these mares stones, very special. It's a stone that it's amazing, works hypoallergenic. It has like a regulation with the temperature, with everything. So it's really a natural, amazing material. And the people working, like you said, with these old pieces that we bring. So the carpenters and all this fenestration work was really amazing, and yeah, we're very lucky working with them.
There's always this really beautiful feeling of the past, that the past is part of the story.
And often, actually, we've discovered things within the buildings that, you know, you have at a ruined building. And I'm doing some research now for a journalist, and we've discovered tapestries that we didn't know were there. We've discovered that the beams were multicolored and painted, and that was all underneath whitewash. Cabinets that were like medicine cabinets with 40 little tiny weeny drawers have been found in the abandoned buildings. So it's a really exciting process, you know, finding these wonderful articles.
Uncovering the past. And then, of course, in all of the projects, there is a diversity, because we talk about the importance of the craft, the hand, but there is nothing that is systematic. It's always related to the place. So a diversity of materials, surfaces, craft, always chosen in a crucial manner to adapt to the location, to the philosophy of the place, to the soul of the building.
The material palette, the color palette, it's all part of the narrative, as you say, of the project. And the word past, we keep coming to that word, the past. For us, it's also, we also intervene mostly in rehabilitate spaces. So we also go a lot to try to find the truth in the space. What's the truth? What can we preserve? What can we transform? So sometimes, like in this case, we already had existing wood panels in this restaurant, and we came and we put our layer on top of that. So I designed this fan, and we painted one by one with a stencil on top of the wooden panel. So I mean, this is work that takes hours and hours and hours, but it's there, and it's that thing, that attention to detail, that Ninho Clubhouse. Here you see the material richness. This is the Viva Lamego tiles, the micro cement, the Portuguese stone, green stone, the terracotta tiles on the floor. So in this little space pool bar, you have all this richness and this diversity and visual warmth that comes through the materials.
Yeah, it's very close to setting a stage, I think. And and back to the sheer importance of craftsmen, I think we need to honor them once again about the stone, the people that work the stone. This is the interior of Son Eremita that is just incredible when you see from where it came as a place for animals to eat into this incredible lounge space.
Yes. When I see this photograph, I remember and the anecdote. We were thinking about the restoration or not of these arcs, because the stone seems to be okay. And then when we retired all these lime or these plasters, we discovered that the stone was not good. There was a lot of crashes and a lot of modern pieces. And then we decided to make the arcs again, but with stone, like in the old method. And then we found a craftsman. He was, now he's a friend. But he told us, no way, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to retire. And then we fight for that, and I think the result is amazing, and you feel like you made a pure work.
Yeah. So we see the extension to which we're coming down to the end of this conversation, unfortunately, and I want to things we've seen in the film and the absolute beauty of recreating contemporary spaces with a feeling for the past and respect of craftsmanship, again, Son Ermita in both ways, and incredible attention to light suspensions, which you craft internally with soft lights. There's never anything too bright, I think, to honor the interiors. And continuing, we had a lot of slides prepared that we're running out of, because Joana is quite a hyper-dynamic and has projects and projects and projects. So, and I did edit the number of slides in the beginning, but you can see the diversity. Yeah. But on to upcoming projects, because I think that's how we're gonna finish up. So, you, Joana, first.
So we're working on 4 or 5 hotels at the moment, several houses. Also art installations, etc. Here you see a rural hotel in an existing old farmhouse that we're doing in the Douro Valley. Once again, Douro Valley is now at the moment, there's a big hype up there. So here so there's a lot of moments here, like the trusses on the ceiling that we're preserving, the fireplace at the bottom, bringing in local stones, bringing in local cements, etc. The tapestries, you already start to think about the local artisans. Here we're going to start a restaurant in Manhattan. I'm traveling there on Monday, which in New York. I'm very happy about that. It's going to be called Galo, Rooster, which is typical of Portugal, and we're bringing a bit of Portugal to New York. It's an urban setting, but still we want to bring the local materials, the tiles, the wood, etc. And here are different projects. 2 houses here on the left, one in the south, one in Algarve, one in the upper south. Also, the little house in Algarve is all very rustic, very small. We're trying to see what we can add, what we can keep. So always with that very huge attention to the detail, integrated lamps, etc. And on the right, a palace, a very old, very chic palace in Porto, which is the second biggest city in Portugal. And here, this is a very big exercise for me because I'm not about glitzy at all, but I need to keep a palatial feel in this place. So I'm looking into wall coverings that are in textile, thinking about all that, more the softness and how to bring in some contemporary feel at the same time. And here to finalize this house in Costa Terra, which is this big resort in the south of Portugal right now. This house we've been working on for 3 years. It's finally under construction. Even the doors are sculpted wood panels. So this is going to be quite a special house, 3,000 square meter house.
On to Vestige, which is taking more its time,
Yes.
but with a lot of projects coming
Slow,
up.
sustainable development. So the second, as I said earlier, in the north of Menorca, in this kind of extraordinary estate, the second sister is arriving, which is the cozy farmstead that's been converted into a very sophisticated but still warm and welcoming 11-bedroom hotel. That's called Bini Dufin. And these are, we've just done a shoot just recently in January. So the first images coming through. So slightly different than the noble Son Ermita on the top of the hill, a little bit more sort of enveloping in terms of the interiors, and slightly richer colours to reflect the redness of the earth and the greenness of the land down in the valley.
And you're also reaching out much further away.
Yes, so it's exciting because Vestige is stepping outside of Spain this year for the first time. And we are opening our first of 4 lodges in Namibia. And I don't know whether you know Namibia. Namibia is a land of vast spaces and not many people and beautiful landscapes and wonderful materials. So these will be new builds, so they'll be quite different. And they'll be quite bold architecturally. So a lot of safari properties, whether you've been on safaris, tend to fall back on a kind of colonial safari look. That is not the route that Vestige is going down. It's going to be a little bit more eye-opening than that.
We look forward to discovering them. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Clara.
Thank you so much.